Today we play golf.
Let me show you how we do it in the pros.
Welcome to Behind the Golf Brand Podcast.
I never miss with the 7-iron.
A conversation with some of the most interesting innovators and entrepreneurs behind the biggest names in golf.
My friends with the golf clubs. I lived on the golf course. I lived on the driving range.
From pro talk
You should learn something from each and every single round you play.
to fun from on and off the green.
Why would you play golf if you don't play it for money?
Just let me put the ball in the hole.
This is Behind the Golf Brand Podcast with Paul Liberatore.
What's up, guys? Paul from Golfers Authority. Welcome to the Behind the Golf Brand Podcast. This week, I got my friend Kerry Moher from Red Rooster Golf. Red Rooster is a new golf glove company. It came out within the last year. It's pretty sick. They sent me a bunch of them, and they're high quality. So I'm really excited to have them on the show today, and you guys check them out. So without further ado, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
Where are you? Where do you live?
I'm in Ottawa, Ontario. So it's we still got some snow on the ground. Spring was in the air last week, but it feels like the middle of winter today. So we're still probably early May. We'll kind of get into our golf season.
Is it
So I'm
slowly
excited.
starting to come into golf season right now? Like slowly.
Slowly. Yeah.
I played golf on Sunday, and it was beautiful. I was like 78. Beautiful. So
I was
nice.
down in North Carolina last week with my business partner, Brad. So we've got distribution for our Canadian market out of Ottawa and distribution for our U.S. market out of just outside Raleigh, Holly Springs. So I was down there. Spring was in the air. Was beautiful. We got to play some courses around Pinehurst, and so whet my appetite.
You're like a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Are you a golf pro?
No. I played college golf, so I played Division II college golf.
You're good, bro. Don't. I mean,
I can get it out there.
what's your
on a
handicap?
day.
Probably like a plus what?
No,
Five?
I'm a 2 handicap.
Jeez, you're like so much better than me. So growing up, did you grow up in Canada,
I did.
in Ottawa?
I moved all over Ontario, but high school was in Ottawa.
Are you an Ottawa Senators fan?
I am.
They have the coolest jersey.
It's
cool.
too bad. The team is going, it ebbs and flows. They were so good for so long, and they've been they're in this pretty lengthy rebuilding phase. But I'm still a big fan. So hoping that greener pastures are ahead.
So when you played high school golf and as a kid, did you play in Canada? I'm assuming you grew up there.
Yeah, I kind of got into golf a little bit later. I started playing when I was like 15, 16, and picked it up and enjoyed it. My area, we didn't have, we had a golf team, but we played like a tournament. One.
Really?
I played through the summers. I had, most of my closest friends played golf. I fell in love with it right away and started playing some tournaments and could kind of break 80 I think it was after my first summer when I was 16, when I got a membership, and then just kind of started to explore my last year of high school, looking into a scholarship, and ended up down in Kentucky at Kentucky State University, a small Division II school. Had an amazing time there. Loved the game ever since, and played with some guys who, got into the game at a high sort of level, pro level, or at the club pro level. And I've just kind of continued to play. And then recently I've got 4 young kids and got 3 girls who are just kind of starting to get into the game. And that was kind of the impetus for Red Rooster, was to try and do something in and around it to do something fun for the game, but also to do a give back to youth golf.
So is Red Rooster your full-time gig? Kind of.
I've got another business. You probably see it behind me. It's Lumberjacks. I've got a couple of axe throwing venues. I got one here in Ottawa and one down in Athens, Georgia, where I went to grad school. So I'm kind of juggling the two of them. But Red Rooster, we launched it last year with a Kickstarter, and things are really picking up.
Oh,
but
really?
We've been operating for less than a year.
So you grew up in Canada. You went down and played Division II in Kentucky, right? And then did you go back to Canada, or did you go right into grad school?
I went back to Canada, came back to Ottawa, worked for a couple of technology firms, and just kind of knew that I had a lot of entrepreneurial spirit, and
Did you feel like your soul was dying inside when you were there slowly?
it was, if you've watched Office Space, like that was sort of my
PC load
life.
error? Did you have a bunch of PC load errors?
It was like I had my first boss had like the steaming cup of coffee, and we had the cubicles, and it was
Oh, I had those.
it was a bit painful for me.
It was soul sucking for me. I did that after first job out of law school was I went in house at Honeywell, and I fucking felt like my heart was like dying inside me because it was like they put me in a cubicle as a lawyer, and I was like, "Are you serious? Like seriously? This is for real?" And like, I mean, I met some of the best people ever. Like, I mean, I love my coworkers. I'm like, they're lawyers too, and they were cool, and I loved them, and good people. And it was like I didn't have a cubicle. I shared a cubicle with 4 people, which blew my mind, right? Like,
Wow, yeah, that's.
so I remember
That's close
thinking like, I went
quarters.
through all this law school to sit in a cubicle, like this can't be happening, right? And I remember that feeling.
Well, it's good. It's good experience. Right? It's good to figure out what you. I just didn't. I actually enjoyed the job. I enjoyed the company and the people. I just knew that I wanted a bit more flexibility, and I wanted like a little bit more direction. So that's how I ended up at University of Georgia. I went there to graduate school. They have an amazing
Did you get an
entrepreneurship
MBA?
program. Yeah, it was an MBA program where it had a focus on marketing and entrepreneurship, and
That's cool.
so that's kind of where my business journey started.
So you already had the entrepreneur bite, I guess, and then it helped.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, like people ask you, like, oh, like, how do you become an entrepreneur? And I'm like, you just don't become one. It's like either you have it or you don't. Like you can work. I mean, you might find it over time. I'm not saying you were born with it, but like, it's kind of there's just different flavors. I feel like of people, and some people like being in a cubicle or like being in a corporate world or like, dude, I'd rather blow my brains out. Like honestly, I feel like it's kind of cool that you learned. Well, you got an education in it, right? Essentially. I mean, by going to get your MBA and doing more the how-tos and the whys, right? Because I didn't get an MBA. And law school didn't teach you that stuff. The law school is more about the law, right? And like how to argue. But I still lose my arguments with my wife. But I could win them. I just don't want to.
Sometimes it's better to lose. Yeah.
Yeah, I just a lot better to lose. Just
Yeah.
moment. So when you're an entrepreneur, when you were getting your MBA, is that when you had the idea for the axe throwing?
No, not necessarily. I had a bunch of different ideas when I was
I want to
doing
hear
my
the
MBA.
MBA.
We had to you had to develop different business plans and pitch them at case competitions. We actually had a children's smoke detector, and we won a number of different business plan competitions. And
That's cool.
I think you just learn to look at different markets and evaluate them and figure out how to develop a marketing plan and evaluate the product and the pricing and the sourcing. And so I ventured off of that. I started my own marketing firm, and I worked with a bunch of different clients in a bunch of different industries, and I learned a lot. And then for 15 years or so, I joined forces with one. We built an online learning company called Fresh Air Educators, and it was just a really fun ride. Lots of really smart people. We developed online courses for your boating license or your hunter education certificate,
Cool.
and so on. So we did that for a long time and divested of that a couple of years ago, and still do some sales and marketing work with the group at Calcami and Fresh Air, and kind of pivoted off of that and decided that I'd get back into kind of doing some things on my own. I started the axe throwing with a business partner of mine from graduate school at UGA, and then the Red Rooster just came about in the last sort of lull with the pandemic. I love golf, and I've always wanted to do something in and around it, and started to have a little bit more time on my hands to think about what exactly that might look like.
Wow, you've done a lot of businesses. That's crazy. It's not like some people have an idea and they just go with it, right? But like you've been an entrepreneur for a while, and you've grown companies, and you divested, and you sold out to, and then also, when did you get done with school? Like, what year was that?
I finished at University of Georgia in 2003.
It's like you're almost the same age. So
So
then,
nearly 20 years ago.
I know, dude. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Well, like I'm like doing the math about my, like, when I graduated high school, and I'm like, what the f? right? And then my kids were watching American Idol the other night, and I was like, oh my god! And it's like, kids are like 18, 20, and I was like, what the heck, dude? Like now I'm trying to teach my kids like time goes by really fast. Just FYI, like you don't think it does as a kid. It's like on super speed. I'm just gonna let you know that.
I appreciate it.
Just go tell your kids that right now for me.
Quick tip.
So you had the tech company, sold that, started the axe throwing company. Why did you open 2 locations?
Well, we opened the first one we opened at the University of Georgia in Athens.
I wouldn't open in Ottawa first. I would have done it at a college campus.
I think it was a little bit there wasn't one in Athens, and I think like part of it was just I love Athens. It's just such a cool town. I really enjoyed my time there, and it's a bit of an excuse to get back there, to be honest. But the business has done really well. We didn't want to open one in Ottawa, but there was kind of a need. There's actually 2 other axe throwing places in town, but they were all sort of central to the East End. So we found just a really good location, and that business has done well. We're opening a third one in Lake Oconee.
You're like a serial entrepreneur, bro.
So I got a great team. That was just really fun. Like with Fresh Air Educators, the online learning company, one of the things I'm most proud of with that business was we really got the team together off site, and we did a lot to, team build, but to build a rapport and trust. And so we did, everything from, whitewater rafting to, different hiking excursions, camping, and so on. And axe throwing is a great team building activity, no matter what your team does. Maybe you're legal, maybe you're in retail, but it's nice to get off site, do something new, do something that most people haven't done before, and get to, learn a little bit about each other. So that was kind of the idea behind Lumberjacks, was do something fun for other businesses, a business to kind of like help support them and help them kind of build their team. And people come in with such a great attitude, and it's just a lot of fun. It's a fun, kind of simple, easy business. Online learning is pretty complicated. There's a lot going on there, and Lumberjacks is pretty easy to wrap your head
around. It's like the other side of it, right? It's more like...
Yeah.
It's kind of a cool name. I guys went to your website for Fresh Air Educators, and it's all like outdoor stuff, right? Like, hence the name Fresh Air. Like at first I was, I'm like, oh, it's so freaking smart. And then I looked at it, I'm like, oh, that's cool. You're like, like where you can find all your courses too, like different, organizations or not, or like I saw Arizona Fish and Game, right, for an example.
That's right. One of our partners. So we would build the online courses so that either you would take, all of your hunter education or your boater education online, or you'd take some portion of it and then meet with a partner like Arizona Game and Fish to get, some in-person instruction. So we did a lot of animation and video. It was
You're a smart cat. This is crazy. I had no idea about this. All I knew about you was that you had the axe throwing thing. That's why I knew that like you did Red Rooster, but I didn't know like this is cool. That's really cool. I mean, so essentially, was like Fresh Air Educators like a SaaS essentially, or what would you consider it more of?
Was it more of a
SaaS, like a software as a service, or was it?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's good money in that.
Yeah, we were building really engaging, interactive online courses, and most of our agency partners were sort of focused more on the facilitation of the in-person. So we made a good team.
Well, it's cool too because it's definitely a niche, and it was definitely something that was probably lacking, and consolidation of like to do it right, because like if it's a budgeted item for a governmental agency, it will never get done, or like it'd be really bad, or if they decide to do it, it's gonna cost a fortune, and they're gonna get ripped off. You know what I mean? So it's almost like you had the street credit with other agencies, like, look, we made this for so and so. We made it like, oh, okay, no worries. Yeah, that's cool with you guys. That's smart.
Yeah, it was more scalable, right? So like Arizona Game and Fish probably couldn't build like a full video animated course on its own, but it could leverage the fact that we built, a foundation for like a California, Colorado.
And they have to be pretty close. You know what I mean? Like I know laws are different every state, but I mean, to have the collateral needed to make this stuff is probably close. right? Like,
Yeah,
it's like,
probably the old 80-20 rule came into play
yeah.
there.
And then also I could see too, where like, if they decided if they wanted to do it themselves in house, you'd have to hire somebody full time, right? So that's gonna cost $60,000 to $100,000 a year, and then it's like, no, that's really cool. So you did that, and then you started doing the axe throwing. Were you still playing a lot of golf? Probably not. You're probably just playing when you had time, right?
Over time I was playing less, and about 10 years ago, my uncle got diagnosed with cancer, and he liked golf. He didn't love it, but he had never been to Ireland. And my last name's Moher. Both sides of my family are Irish, if you can't tell. So we planned this trip and we went over there. I had been playing golf like periodically. I didn't have a membership anywhere. I played when I traveled a little bit. We went on that trip to Ireland and I fell in love with the game again. I was like, wow, like golf can be this good, because the courses there were just incredible. And it after that trip, I started playing more, and I started being, I think, even a bit more discerning in where I'd play. I was like, I wanted to play more interesting courses. I'd played a lot of golf, but I hadn't played a lot of great golf until that trip. And so I got back and started to do a little bit more. I joined the Royal Ottawa here in town, which is a great private club that has great facilities, and got playing more, started introducing my kids to the game. So it's been nice. But probably the last 10 years I played more than the 10 prior to that.
Well, you start having kids too, so having less time to actually play as well, right? It's like on top of it, so it's kind of, that's like me. It's like I almost say, people say, oh, you do golf stuff, and it's like, you must be really good. I'm like, I try to, like, I made a website to like try to get better, and I do all this stuff to like learn and get better, like everybody else, but like I'm no pro, like I wasn't. Like, so it's almost kind of, especially in the age group that we're in, when you start having kids and like activities, it's like you've less and less and less and less time. Like, I'm as lucky if I was playing golf once a month, and that was if I was lucky, right? Now I have a little more flexibility, but so let's talk about Red Rooster. So then, when did you have the idea for Red Rooster? How did this come up?
I've probably been thinking. I've been thinking about doing something in golf for years, and there wasn't really like one sort of aha moment. But if I boil it back, at least to my current partnership with my business partner Brad Fritz, she's a former PGA Tour player. We were doing just a buddies trip to Pinehurst area, and I remember, I'd spent a lot of money to get there, and we were playing some really nice courses, and of course, I've got my expensive membership and I've got my expensive golf clubs, and I took a pretty good, razzing from the guys for like, I had, a really brutal glove that was really old, and it was sort of like, why would you do that when you take golf pretty seriously? Like, what is it about gloves that you don't seem to value? And I hadn't really thought about it. I didn't value them. I thought, well, they're just gloves, and I was kind of like a bit of a cheapskate with golf gloves, and like with the rest of my game, I was spending lots of money. So it made me question like how important are they? And in talking with Brad, tour pros, they get gloves, they're practically disposable. He would only use a glove for a round or two, and I couldn't even wrap my head around that. But score is paramount to them, and so they're not going to leave anything to chance. They're not going to play with a ball for a hole too many, or a glove for a round too many. And so it got me thinking, like, gloves aren't that expensive. Why wouldn't I get more of them? What's a good glove like? Is there a difference between them? And I started to really dig in. I started to try all the different gloves, the different brands, and it led me to where they're all made, which, most of the golf gloves, aside from Titleist FootJoy, are made in Indonesia. There's a steady supply of Cabretta leather, and when I went over and visited with all the factories, you could see that it's a really detailed sewing process, and so it leads itself to different centers that focus on leatherworks, and it's a really sort of, they're all handcrafted.
It's skill. It's not.
Yeah, it's a skill.
It's not a machine that does it. It's like they have to sew them for reals, like by hand, or through a machine. But you know what I'm saying.
Even when I went over, so I ended up by
That's what I
securing
love about
business.
Kerry, you guys, because when Kerry told me he did this, like nobody does this. Like when he said, "Oh, I went over there and when look at suppliers," I was like, "For reals? You like really did that?" Like, because no one does it. They go, "Oh, I went Alibaba and I like found some cheap ass, glove manufacturer."
Well, I did do Alibaba,
Oh,
and
and then you
everything was.
learned, and you're like,
And
ugh.
I was like, these aren't great gloves. I knew right away. And of course, I mean, my business partner is a tour pro, so he was. I mean, to be fair, he's a bit of a glove snob. So
Which is good because you need to know that because you're not, and neither am
yeah,
I. Like you wouldn't know. I mean, you would know if it was like crap, like right away, like if it breaks and you put it on or something. But
no, a year ago I didn't know, or 2 years ago I didn't know near as much. Like I've become a bit of a glove snob myself now, just understanding the difference and how they're made. But yeah, no, I went over because I said, I have to understand how these gloves are made. If I'm going to get into this business, I'm going to sell these. I need to understand what's the process look like. And I was a bit naive. I didn't know anything about tanneries and leather works. So that blew my mind, just the 4 to 6 week process to take a skin and turn it into this really soft cabretta leather. And then the glove making process was really impressive because I thought more of it would be automated, but it's these teams that, hand sew these gloves. So every stitch is responsibility of one team member, and they do one thing and they do it really well. And they hand it off to the next team member who does a different stitch or does a different cut or is part of the quality control process. So it made me feel even better. And I appreciate the gloves even more. I've got when you're just like, when you look at one of the golf gloves and you look at all that stitching, this is all done by a person.
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's like there's a lot of care that has to be put into the glove, and people just think that it's something that's not, right? And I think especially so when you went to Indonesia, like what happened? You went there and you're like, whoa, what the heck? It kind of blew your mind.
Well, I've done a lot of, I've always been in sort of business development sales. And so I had lined up these meetings. I had worked with the Indonesian Trade Commission, and they had lined up these meetings. I had a really hard time getting any meetings because these are big factories and they work with a lot of the top brands.
Yeah, and you're nobody. They're like, I don't have time for you.
Yeah, they're busy. They don't need some new upstart golf glove maker. They don't need the business and they don't need the headaches because they've got, big clients that they want to, keep them protected. So it was actually really hard you got the first meetings, and I've had meetings, years ago with like Bass Pro Shops, and you get 7 minutes in a trailer and you're sort of on your way. And it was that type of experience. I'd flown halfway around the world and they were just sort of like going to do you the service. Like, thanks for coming. Appreciate your interest. Take care. We'll talk soon. And so luckily I was, stranded there. I was there for the next 2 weeks. So I had to sort of find reasons and excuses to come back. And I eventually, was able to win over a couple of manufacturers to even kind of get in the door and even have a deeper conversation.
So how many places did you visit?
I visited 10 to 12 factories. I got on the floor of 4 that were sort of worthwhile. And look, like some of them were like, I'd show up and say, I'm glad I'm here because this isn't, a factory I'd be comfortable with. There was a real wide range.
This is real. This is like, you never hear of this. Like when you told me this the first time, I was like, I mean, this is the right way of doing business, right? Most people just don't do that. They just kind of like shotgun it to a bunch of manufacturers overseas and hope to God they'll get a sample and be like, oh, this is good enough for us to sell, right? Like essentially is what happens. But like you did it like a real industrial person trying to figure out like who is the manufacturer that I want to work with, not based off of a website, not based off some sample they send me that could not be, like that's, I've never, like seriously, there's like, I don't even know that many brands actually do this. I mean, the ones I do know doing this are like real brands at this point. They're not just like crossing their fingers and hoping that their supplier is not going to go out of business. You know what I mean? It's more like, oh yeah, this is an established company. So like so you saw 4 places essentially, and then narrowed it down. And then how'd you like line up? How'd you pick the one you liked out of everybody?
I had already done some sampling, and then we did some collaboration. So then I run a full production run is usually a minimum of 1,000 gloves.
Holy shite.
So we kind of whittled it down to 2 major manufacturers to actually do production runs and see if there was, a difference in the production run versus the samples. Samples can be misleading.
So production was 4,000. So you do 4,000, or I'm sorry, 1,000 gloves, right? So you do 1,000 gloves as a production run, and that's a lot of risk, right, for you guys, because if you get 1,000 gloves and they're not like the sample, you're gonna be like, we can't sell these. No one's gonna buy them. They're crap, right? So I mean,
it was a bit of a risk, but at that point, I mean, I visited those floors, I'd built those relationships. I was reasonably confident.
You hedged the risk like pretty close to like knowing you're not going to get garbage. This is verification that it's still a good product. Like
that's right.
What you saw is what you're going to be receiving. So then you did that, and then how many sample runs did you do in total? You have a lot of lines.
We did those 2 sample runs, and we did beta testing. So we used those we did different contests and giveaways and different things so that we could get those gloves out to the general public, to some influencers, friends and family, and get people to test the gloves, to actually try them. It's one thing to, this looks beautiful, but you got to go and use it and to see like how long would they last.
Where does it break? Does it break? How? Yeah, like all this stuff. Does it bleed?
Yeah.
Is it the right sizing? Like what they're saying is a large. Is that really a large? So when did you do that? Like what year was that? So this is 21.
That was last February. Last February and March, we did the beta testing. And
then you said that you had done. Where people buy into it. What's that thing called?
The Kickstarter.
Kickstarter. So when did you decide to do Kickstarter, and when did you do Kickstarter?
We did the Kickstarter. It was essentially May. It was early May to early June. It was a 30-day campaign. So after we did
you have experience with a Kickstarter before that?
No, I'd never
done.
Hey,
it'd be a cool way. We should try it out if it works. I mean, you already had the product, right? Essentially, because you'd gotten the 1,000 of them, so you had something you could sell. Or did you get rid of that 1,000 before you did Kickstarter?
Well, we thought we were being super good. So when we ordered the 1,000 samples, as soon as those came in, we knew like both manufacturers were amazing. So we had really good product. We already knew what the results were going to be. We put it out. There were no surprises. Everyone was like, this is a really good glove, and then we doubled down and we ordered what we thought we would sell in the Kickstarter in February from one manufacturer. We put kind of all our eggs in that one basket, which they were both really good. It was 1A and 1B. It was a tough decision because they were both so good. But we sort of thought that we were
almost the jackpot, man. You hit the gold. Like that's like the hardest thing, right? Because it's like you knew as soon as you open that packaging, you're like, oh, this is real. This is not.
Yeah, we knew the sampling was great. Once I was over there, we did even more sampling while I was there, so that we could stretch the different styles and stuff. And I was really confident that these 2 manufacturers would deliver, and they did. But when we doubled down on the Kickstarter, we were anticipating actually like having the inventory so that when the Kickstarter was done, we would have fulfilled it right away. And that didn't happen. The lead time for these gloves went from 60 days to, 120 to 240.
Was like last summer?
It was sort of a trickle down from COVID. The leather was in short supply. The factories were being hit with waves of COVID restrictions that didn't allow them to even have employees in the factories were shuttered for, a couple of months. And even when they got
even though you thought like you had already figured out, gained the system, right?
Yeah,
you,
we did.
You pre-figured it out, and you're like, okay, cool, beans, we got this. And then, even though this is year 2 of COVID, it's like it kind of derails it a little bit, right?
Yeah, we were definitely thinking we were pretty clever, and it ended up.
I mean, you are. I mean, you did the right things. It wasn't like. I mean, so when did that happen? So that was like, so from last year, from like, you started Kickstarter. What month was that? April.
It was in May.
All right, so
and
May.
we had ordered enough gloves to cover the Kickstarter in February, and they were supposed to be ready by May. Like, as the Kickstarter was starting, we should have had the gloves, and then it was just like, oh, delay here, slight delay again, and it started to get away in us. But we were a bit naive. We were like, oh, they're coming. It really dragged on. We didn't fulfill that Kickstarter completely until September.
But still pretty good, though. It's still pretty commendable that you were able to get it done by September, because, I mean, some Kickstarters never deliver, and some take a year because of whatever. People get pissed off. So, I mean, I think people have become more understanding with COVID and with shipping and all the things. It's all in. I mean, I had this conversation the other day with somebody. I'm like, but it's about free shipping, right? Like, and I know there's ways that you can play around with free shipping, but the cost of shipping has gone up so much. The cost of getting goods over here is so much. The time, now you have to bring the time factor in. Like, yeah, it's cheaper to ship by boat, but then it's like, will it ever arrive, right? Because it could be sitting outside of California forever. So it's like, so then you do air freight, which is like literally twice the price.
Oh yeah.
Which you probably already know this too, but people out there probably don't know that. So then it's like, okay, now it costs twice the price, which is a lot, 100% more. And now it's like, okay, now how do you pass that on? Do you pass that on to the consumer, or do you not? And then it's like, shipping's gotten so expensive right now, it's ridiculous. Like, it was already ridiculous for the last 2 years, but now with gas, it's even more. I talked to a guy yesterday. He goes, we're gonna ship some stuff to Idaho, right? We're gonna drive it ourselves. It was a simulator, right? We're gonna drive his custom-made simulator to Idaho for his house. He's like, and when we did the numbers, we had a plan, and then it's like, in the last month, the gas went up, twice as much. It was $2 more a gallon, essentially. He's like, now it's cheaper for us to ship it by UPS than it is to drive it to, like, because even shipping prices went up, gas is more expensive than doing it. I'm like, it's still very commendable that you guys are able to get that done by September, considering everything that's going on in the world. This is the thing I want people to know too. Gloves are hard. Okay, now people think gloves are easy. Gloves don't cost a whole heck of a lot to make. Well, depends. But they're hard because if you get the wrong manufacturer, you're hosed. And that's it. You're hosed. There's nothing you can do about it. You got to find another manufacturer. And so for what Red Rooster has done, though, in a very short amount of time, it hasn't even been a year, right? I mean, this is March. It's literally been a year ago is when you went down.
It's about a year, yeah.
They're legitimate, and I'm not saying a lot. There's only a handful of glove companies I can say are legitimate glove companies. There's a lot of people selling gloves on their website. That's completely different. But so with Red Rooster, you guys are. We talked about it the other day. Like, there's a million freaking sizes for gloves. Like, right? So it's like, you can't just do small, medium, large. That's it. Large, XL. Like, that's like level 1 glove company right there. Like, because how many, for real, you guys are going to blow your mind. How many sizes do you guys carry?
26.
26. Now, I named 4. So there's 22 other sizes that we didn't even name, right? So when I did gloves, somebody said, "Oh, do you carry this?" And I'm like, "What is even that?" Like, "No, I don't carry cadet." "What's cadet?" "Well, I kind of know what cadet was." I'm like, "Seriously?" And then it's like, "Oh, do you carry kids? Oh, do you carry women?" Because they're all different sizes. You can't be like, "Oh, it's a small glove. A woman would wear that." No, it doesn't. 'Cause, like, 26. That's a freaking insanity.
Yeah, I didn't even. So when we did the beta testing, that's when 30% of that audience requested cadet sizing. So they got the gloves, they liked them, and they said, if you offer this in cadet, we'd buy.
So let me ask this as a business question. Did you give them the glove, or did they buy the glove?
We gave those away. The beta gloves were we were building our list for the Kickstarter. So we got most of our interest by putting out, we had a golf glove habit survey. We asked people, simple questions like, how often do you change your glove?
And then if they did the survey, then you send them a free glove. Is that how you were doing it?
In some cases we did. We hit different lists, and we did some, advertising. We tried all kinds of different marketing tactics to just see like what was the interest in our product, and also like was the market, looking for this solution. Namely, did they like if everyone said, there's lots of great gloves out here, they're all perfectly priced and of high quality, and they're delivered in exactly the right time, we wouldn't have had everything. But all the answers kind of led us to, most people have a kind of this love-hate relationship with gloves. You love a new, fresh glove. You usually like have to buy another one when you get a hole in it or something you haven't properly planned, and you go into a pro shop and you pay too much and you don't feel good about it. And then you use it for too long after that because you feel like you've got to get X amount of rounds out of it.
Right.
Yeah. So not only did we have to make a really good glove, like Brad just wouldn't get involved if we were going to make something that was just sort of run of the mill. We had to make something that was as good a glove as we could make. And then it was about the delivery method. And that's why we offer, it's a flexible subscription, we call it. But quite often, like, you need a glove to show up on your door as a reminder that it's time to change your glove. We often say,
I'll never remember that. Yeah.
You can't be trusted to change your glove on the right time. You just don't do it. You're like, I can get another round or two out of this. And when that glove arrives in the mail, you're like, maybe I'll use that one for the practice or the warm-up.
You're definitely going to use a new one because you're excited.
Right,
Like, I have
yeah.
a new glove, and I don't have to remember to buy it.
Yes, that's the idea on the subscription. So it can come like every month, every couple of months. You can skip a shipment if you don't need one, but it's
optional, right? Like, you don't have to do that. It's a service you use.
Yeah, you can just buy the gloves.
Yeah, or you can do a subscription. Now, if somebody does subscription, is it cheaper?
It is. Yeah, you save 10% if you do the subscription. But it is more about the convenience and more of the reminder that like the gloves come so you don't have to think about when you should be changing your glove. I'd say that's more important, but you do save a little bit of money if you subscribe.
In September, you get the first orders out to the people that. How did you do well on Kickstarter?
Yeah, we did. We sold over $75,000 worth of product to more than 1,000 backers. So it was.
How do you even market on Kickstarter? Do you publish it, or I don't know how Kickstarter works on the back end. So like, as a person wanting to do Kickstarter, like what happens?
So you have to build. Kickstarter is sort of it's a portal. You're building like a little sort of like infomercial site. So you build this scrolling page that shares your product and your mission and vision, and then you're essentially sort of pre-selling the product. So we pre-sold. You could buy a glove. You could buy 3 gloves or 6 gloves, and you could buy one of our glove cases. So there was different packages, and we even had some unique golf experiences where you could play like TPC Sawgrass or Kinlock and some private unique golf experiences with myself and my business partner Brad. So it's kind of a mix of products that you put up, and some of them are limited in scope, some of them are time sensitive. And then you choose the length of the campaign, and ours was for 30 days. So we raised $75,000, but I think after like 3 days, we were already at like $35,000. We were about.
What do you think caused that? Like, what do you think made people support it?
It was a lot of it came from the beta testing, and we had built a list and the survey. We had 3,500 people answer our golf glove habits survey.
But then how did you with the survey, how did you get them to actually do that? Like, some people were like, whatever.
We worked with different partners who got some of our beta gloves and were willing to share with their audience. So we would send out the survey and say, hey, 100 people who answer this survey are going to get a free glove, and we'd get 1,000 people to answer it. So people were sort of like giving us market research in exchange for like the possibility of getting one of these free gloves.
Did you use like SurveyMonkey, or did you build something out yourself, or what did you do?
It was SurveyMonkey. Yeah.
So like you would go to a partner, quote unquote, and be like, hey, send this out to your email list, or send this out to on social or whatever, and you're going to give away X product to X people for just, they probably put their email address in, so if you do pick them, they'd be like, hey, we'll send this to you. Oh my God, so freaking smart, dude.
That was it. So we built this list, and then the way the Kickstarter works is like the first day of that campaign, you tell everybody, right? You can this list, your friends and family, and it's a bit of a gamification exercise. So people are coming to this website and they're seeing the activity, and they, if they like the product or if they've interacted with it, if they trust you, then they'll, support you.
Now, when you sell something on Kickstarter, do you do it for full price, like the real price, or is it a special price because it's on Kickstarter?
It was a special price. They were discounted, sort of early bird pricing, I guess you'd call it.
So that's a lot of people, 1,000 people. I mean, that's a lot of money too. I mean, right? I guess it's like so then in total, how many things did you sell? You said
we sold
1,000.
We sold 2,500 gloves.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Do you think people did it too because like you're giving them, it's gamification and prize, so that people were like, oh yeah, I want to go to TPC Sawgrass, so I'll buy it, see what happens. Do you think that's what it was, or just with everything you learned?
Those unique experiences were separate. So you'd get some gloves with those, but it was mostly that those were an opportunity that those ended up being purchased by some like good close friends and family. It's more of a support of saying like, hey, we like your idea. We'd love to see you guys succeed. And here's a way to kind of like help you out to help your launch and help you guys, move
buy a
forward.
ton of product and like, oh, we want to support you with that. And that's so freaking smart. I only know 2 people who's done Kickstarter now, and they're both glove companies, and they both did very well.
Okay.
You and Palm Gloves did Kickstarter.
Okay.
That's how they launched. There's probably more that I don't know about, but that's a testament to you, man.
Yeah, thanks. The one thing we learned from it is that golf, there's not been a lot of success with golf brands on Kickstarter because it tends to be the whole ecosystem is very like tech focused. So I would say like
now, especially with golf getting bigger, that like
it may be helping. It may be a different time, but I think a lot of people think like this Kickstarter kind of does it for you. Like if you launch on Kickstarter, people just come out of the woodwork, but Kickstarter was just a platform where we could send people and they could support.
But didn't you guys already have a website or no? Like, I guess this kind of makes it feel differently because you probably
we had a website, but it was pushing people to Kickstarter at the time. Like we didn't have any gloves, so we weren't selling anything. So it was a way to kind of like, gather everybody's support to see the bit of the gamification, but we drove all the traffic to Kickstarter, and Kickstarter was a way to kind of like capture the support. We didn't get like all these Kickstarter backers from other projects coming to support ours. That happens with tech stuff because sometimes people buy things on Kickstarter every week, the newest gadget, but golf is a bit different. If anything, our audience hadn't supported anything on Kickstarter before and had a hard time like creating an account and kind of getting in. It was in some ways it was a bit of a burden, but it was overall a good experience.
Well, it also kind of solidifies your idea, right? And it says, look, this is a good idea. This is a value. People do want this. It's not like it's just, I don't know. I think it's fascinating because I just think it's rare, like you're saying. It's not like a lot of people have done this. I know 2 out of 100 brands have done it now, essentially.
Okay.
There's probably more people that have done it that just don't talk about it because it didn't work out for them. But like you said, like you were pushing people to it. You weren't just like, oh, if I post on Kickstarter, it's gonna make all my money. You know what I mean? It's gonna do it for me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. It's like it's just a platform for you to be like, here's my idea, here's what we're gonna do, here's my video, here's whatever. But it's not like they're not pushing people for you. It's just a place to put your stuff and hope that people are interested.
That was my experience. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Tell me what do you guys offer right now to consumers? What is your forte, I guess?
Yeah, so our main area is our golf gloves. So we've got 9 different styles. We've got our kids glove, which is called the Rook. That's also the glove that we donate. So that's the piece that sort of, Brad and I, when we were starting the business, we're kind of looking a couple years out and saying, if this thing takes off, we're going to want to have some sort of give back. Golf's been really good to me. Brad's made a career in the game. And if we were to give back, we had looked at like what are some of the different organizations that we could kind of work with. And if we could work with them, what would we do? Would we donate some sort of portion of profits or proceeds? And we ended up deciding that, the best thing we could do is give a glove back to some kid who's just getting into the game for the first time, because golf's a bit intimidating and you don't really know all the rules and it doesn't always feel the most welcoming. And especially as far as gloves are concerned, they don't know that you wear a glove. So they'll often show up to their first event and get maybe some instruction or sort of golf 101 and like the instructors have gloves, but the kids don't. And so we reached out to the First Tee and specifically the First Tee Triangle, which is in Brad's area. It's Raleigh, Durham. And we asked them, we said, how many kids who went through your, intro to golf program last year had gloves when they showed up to the activities? And the CEO was like, 0, none. They don't know about gloves. They don't have them. We don't give them to them there. And so we were like, well, wouldn't it be great if we could, donate our gloves to organizations like the First Tee and make a really good first impression. So that's kind of rounds out what we do. We make, our pitch is like we make tour quality gloves at fair prices. We deliver them direct by flexible subscription. And for every glove that you buy, we donate one to youth golf.
I mean, honestly, you guys make really good gloves. Like, I really appreciate the story because it feels like people don't the quality and level of care that you guys are trying to do is not common, and I think it's amazing. Like, I think you guys make superb gloves, but also you're doing it the right way and you're giving back. So I think it's like this trifecta essentially. I guess my last question for you is, this year, like, what are you guys focusing on? Do you have any new products coming out, or are you just sticking with the gloves and the carrier?
We've got some new gloves. We have 4 new styles of gloves. Our spring and summer gloves that are coming out. They're really colorful and bright.
Cool.
We're also working on this is the latest sample of our Red Rooster glove. Super cool.
Ooh, rain glove, that's cool.
So we're developing that. We're just in the sort of final stages of finalizing this glove, which we're really thrilled with. We've got some new accessories. We've got head covers, towels, tees, some performance hats like these, kind of some ball markers. We're leaking out a bunch of stuff this summer, so
That's cool.
We're excited. We've got a lot to kind of roll out every week. There should be something new, and we're just starting to build a bit of momentum. It was very slow from kind of the end of the Christmas rush, January and February, and all of a sudden March, things have been really starting to pick up.
Yeah, now the season is slowly starting. Well, where can people find you, I guess, if you want to check out Red Rooster?
Yeah. Well, we'd love some follows on our social channels. We're starting to put out a lot of content there, having fun interacting with folks there. But redroostergolf.com, that's our website. You can check out our products. We're doing a deal right now where it's 40% off when you sign up to any one of our subscriptions. You get 40% off the glove case, which is also just a product we're super proud of. It's, hold your wallet and a couple of gloves, keep them flat and dry, last longer. So if you sign up for our flexible subscription, you get that glove case and your first glove for 40% off.
Wow. So what's your website?
redroostergolf.com.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being on the show today. I think what you guys are doing is amazing. I love how you're actually doing it the right way and that you're putting a lot of thought and care in what you're doing. I mean, 26 SKUs. I mean, it's more than that, but I mean, like, whatever. It's crazy, man. That's insane. It's just, there's no excuse, right? You're not like, oh, we don't make that. Sorry. It's like, oh, no, we have that. Don't worry. And now you're trying to move into, like, other hard goods as well as a rain glove. Like, no one touches that market. So it's almost like it's super cool. And I think it's fantastic. I love your story because it's like it's very entrepreneurial and business related. It's not like you had an idea, you made some stuff, and you try to sell it. It's like it was very well thought through, and I think it's going to be really big. So thank you for being on the show today. You guys need to check out Red Rooster Golf Gloves, and I don't know, I'm a fan, and this is the short time I've known them, so it's really cool. So I will see you guys in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Behind the Golf Brand Podcast.
You're gonna beat me at golf?
Stay connected on and off the show by visiting golfersauthority.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment.
Golf is always more fun when you win.
Stay out of the beach and see you on the green.